interfered through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to an Extreme Rules episode of The People's Take. The road to SummerSlam is heating up as Extreme Rules comes to Philadelphia this Sunday, and we are here to preview the show. Along with me is LJ Harrell. LJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Speaking of Extreme Rules, I'm still on the fence about going. I've been looking at tickets every day, hoping prices went down just a little bit. But it isn't right in my backyard pretty much. So anytime an event comes to Philly at the Wells Fargo Center, I always try to make it there. So we'll see if I make it there, and it'll be interesting. The card actually doesn't seem that bad, and obviously we're going to go over a couple of things throughout this segment. But I'm excited in the way in which the WWE is going, if that makes sense. I don't want to spoil anything that we're going to talk about, later on in the segment, but I think the WWE is finally starting to do things right.
I agree. I think I'm more excited for what's to come after Extreme Rules than what is to come at Extreme Rules.
I agree.
There's just so much to get excited for. But first of all, due to summer vacations, we have not been able to hook up since Stomping Grounds. So let's just take a moment and revisit Stomping Grounds. We did our preview show for that. What was it now? 3-4 weeks ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's been a little while. So now let's dive back into that show for just a couple minutes. What did you like about the show? Did it meet expectations, the limited expectations most of us did have? Favorite matches? What were your thoughts on it?
Well, one thing that I did like is they didn't try to stretch it out the full 4 hours. It ended, I think, at like 10:15ish, 10:20, something like that. Usually, when they do these pay-per-views, they say it's 7 o'clock. It's usually a 4-hour pay-per-view, and they stretch things on, and it makes it feel long. This didn't feel that long. Maybe my expectations were really low going into it, but I thought the pay-per-view itself was better. I mean, the matches weren't that great. Some of the matches were really good, but like it wasn't a WrestleMania caliber card. But my favorite match, I wrote 2 down. Ricochet versus Samoa Joe, mainly for the shock value. I did not think Ricochet was going to beat Samoa Joe. That was one of the ones that me and you had different. I'm glad. Obviously, they're putting Samoa Joe, at least right now, into the championship, the WWE championship picture. But having Ricochet win that title, he's somebody that I think could elevate the title because he's going to be out there every night. And he has the ability to defend that title. And the other one I put the ending of Kofi versus Ziggler. I knew Kofi was going to win the match. It was a matter of how he's going to win the match. And he didn't have Xavier Woods or Big E come down to help him. There was no interference. And diving through the ropes out the cage, it was such an intriguing way to end the match. We know how Kofi, when he's in the Rumble, or when he's in the Battle Royals, he does these things that his feet doesn't touch the ground. This was a way for him to show his athleticism even more. And the way that match ended was really fun. Something that I enjoyed. Obviously, Ziggler shouldn't have been in the title picture, but they got what they wanted out of Ziggler, and Kofi's moving on as the WWE champion.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the ending of that match just was so Kofi-esque. Just the way that it happened, and the way when you think about Kofi, you think about all those saves in the Royal Rumble, and then the way he dove out of there. And you know what? That was probably one of my favorite matches of the night too. Was Kofi and Ziggler. I thought that was a really good cage match. I found it a bit more brutal than I thought it would be from a Kofi and Ziggler standpoint. So I like that there was a really pure aggression side to Kofi and Ziggler for that. I also really, because of the way the storyline is going, a lot of people are hating on it and they dislike it right now. But the shock value for Lacey Evans coming to the ring as a special guest referee, my reaction to that was just mind blowing. I know that we hate it because of the direction the storyline's going. We don't want these two couples, these two it couples going at it, and Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin, and how much people don't want them to win because Lacey can't fight in a ring. Baron's boring as all hell on a mic and everything else around it. So I think what gets lost in the shuffle is the shock value of Lacey Evans coming out because no one really saw that coming. I mean, I was standing there and I was saying Paul Heyman all the way. And then when Lacey Evans' music started, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. It made sense.
It did make sense.
You didn't think about it. You didn't think about how it made sense until she came out and, well, you know, Michael Cole, oh my God, it's the real life girlfriend of Seth Rollins. They play all the time. It's the most annoying thing in the WWE right now. We get it's a real life couple. We always knew that. They were a couple before you decided to make it a storyline. So trust me, everybody knew Seth Rollins and Becky were a couple.
My thing is them playing. I think they've overplayed it. Yeah, we know it, and it works in current storylines, but you know, they're gonna have to go away from that eventually. And who knows how it's gonna work, because when Lacey Evans came out, I'm pretty sure I messaged you and I was like, okay, this makes sense. I didn't think about it, but it makes sense. But I knew as soon as she came out, okay, I knew that Becky Lynch was gonna come out. She was going to get involved in a match. Like the predictability of it, when you see the different things going in terms of storyline, you knew what was gonna happen.
Agreed. And I also loved Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus A New Day. I thought that was an incredible tag team match, just because it's so rare you see two so experienced teams get to go at each other. You see all these NXT teams coming up and stuff, and just some of them you can see the experiences in there. But when you get an Owens and Zayn and The New Day, I thought that was an incredible tag team match. And, well, I love the direction they're going with Kevin Owens too. So that was another thing at a Stomping Grounds that I really liked. The Ricochet, I picked Ricochet. I wanted Ricochet to win. So, of course, I'm going to sit here and tell you there was no shock to it. But there kind of was. Because I thought that Samoa Joe would keep going. But it makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
But otherwise, yeah, I agree with the whole sentiments that it didn't feel and it wasn't 4 hours. And I like that they didn't try and drag it on. Like some pay-per-views, you can tell there's points in a pay-per-view where the match is just dragging, or a match or a promo is just dragging on just to get the 4 hours out of a pay-per-view. I didn't feel that at all in this one at all. So I really like that they did that and that they weren't afraid to say, let's cut it off at 3.5 hours. We got 3.5 hours of good, decent pay-per-view. I thought it was one of the better recent pay-per-views, actually.
Yeah, and especially coming off of Super Showdown, they didn't really have to do much to beat that in terms of the excitement and just the wrestling mode. Now WWE kind of has to compare their pay-per-views to what AEW is doing, and when they have their quote-unquote pay-per-views up until they hit their weekly broadcasting. You know, AEW is going strong. I mention it every time we do a People's Take segment. You know, they're the it thing right now, but they're also not doing it every week like the WWE is. And that's when things will definitely get different for AEW. But the WWE, I think, are taking the necessary steps to turn things around. You know, they've been this PG company for the last decade plus. Now, we've seen it over the last couple of weeks, how they've started to transition. They're not going to go full Attitude Era, but they're going to go PG-13, PG-14, and they're going to allow the wrestlers to be themselves, I think. And with Heyman and with Bischoff, who we're going to talk about both of them in a little bit, but with them leading the way, I think things are really looking up for the WWE.
Oh, absolutely. I knew when I heard that Fox demanded the WWE get away from the PG rating, I was like, this is perfect. This is what they needed. You're losing, like, I understand that there's all these kids watching, they idolize these wrestlers, and I fully understand wanting to stay in that direction because you're getting such a great young fan base, but you start to lose the interest of the rest of the fan base. You alienate the rest of the fan base when you're just PG and you're a sports entertainment wrestling type. Like, you got to bring a bit more violence. You got to bring a bit more attitude to this all. And I think that that's definitely what Fox was saying was, we want ratings. And how many PG rated shows do you see getting these crazy ratings? Because Fox said they want 3 million viewers a week, or they're going to cut ties with the WWE. So you want 3 million viewers a week. I doubt there's many PG shows that are super kid friendly out there that are getting 3 million viewers.
And if WWE is going to get to that 3 million viewers, they have a lot of work to do. SmackDown has been averaging like 2.1 million, I think, if not less than that.
Yeah, it just started coming up.
Yeah, I keep reading stories. They want the first SmackDown that's on Fox is in LA, and they want all the stars there. They're going to want The Rock. They're going to want Lesnar. They're going to want Ronda Rousey. They're going to want movie stars. They're going to want celebrities. Will that help? Who knows? But I'm hoping that they keep it wrestling centric. All these having 20-minute promos to start shows, that's got to end. Let's start a show, get into a wrestling, and you can have a promo here, you can have a promo there, but allow, the superstars to do what they're getting paid to do, and that's be wrestlers.
Absolutely. Like, I love the way that it's been going. Like, we were texting the other day when the whole thing with Strowman and Lashley went down, and the best
opening to a Raw in years.
Oh, exactly. Years. The holy shit factor to all that was like, oh my God, welcome Paul Heyman.
Yeah, and the great thing about that though is Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff aren't technically taking over until after Extreme Rules.
But we all know that
they had
Paul Heyman written all over it.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell that this is not a full-on, this was not a Vince McMahon planned thing. You can tell somebody else had their hand in this, because this is not, if Vince McMahon had it his way, that match wouldn't have been happening. It would have been Shane McMahon cutting some bullshit promo about The Undertaker, banning The Undertaker, or whatever he wants, just keeping everyone away so that he can own the WWE. But with that in mind, let's shift gears to talking Bischoff and Heyman. The big news broke about, I think it was right after Stomping Grounds, that Eric Bischoff would be taking over SmackDown as an executive producer, and Paul Heyman would be taking over Monday Night Raw as an executive producer with direct lines to Vince McMahon. They don't make the final decision, but they are the next to the final decision is what it sounds like. They'll go to Vince McMahon and get the approval based on their ideas and what they do with the creative team. With this in mind, obviously, there's a clear new direction for Raw and SmackDown. And what are your thoughts on this whole move to Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman in executive roles?
I love it. And I think that the one big thing is that there's going to be a clear, difference between Raw. There should be anyway, a clear difference, between Raw and SmackDown. They should be their own entities under the WWE umbrella, obviously, but they shouldn't. They should be their own entities. Do away with the wild card rule, or just do away with the brand split altogether. But Vince needs to allow them to do their thing. Back in the Monday Night Wars, when Eric Bischoff was running WCW, that was the best time for wrestling, because you had two companies, two products that you could watch, and you didn't know what was going to happen on a weekly basis, on a nightly basis. And that's exactly what I think we're going to get into when you have AEW starting to make their, presence known when they get onto weekly television. Eric Bischoff said the other day, I was reading something, he's like, he still has stuff to learn. He's been out of the game for a while. So it's different now than it was back in the 90s and early 2000s, which he's 100% correct about that, just the way things are going. But I love it just because you have two guys that have ran companies and have done it successfully, albeit for short periods of time, but they have their own ideas and they can get other superstars involved. The big one is going to be you mentioned it earlier, getting rid of Shane McMahon every week. And they're going to start phasing him out after Extreme Rules. And I'm so happy about that, because he takes up so much time. And when Kevin Owens had his pipe bomb moment on SmackDown, he was saying what all the superstars in the back, believe. He's taking time away from Buddy Murphy. He's taking time away from Liv Morgan. He's taking time away from all the superstars that travel day in and day out. that are on the road for 300 plus days a year, but we rarely see them on Raw. We rarely see them on SmackDown because Shane McMahon has to be out there taking the spotlight for 20 minutes, on a nightly basis during a segment. And that's got to stop. And finally, they're going to do away with that. The McMahon shouldn't be seen on TV. Very rarely, I should say, they should be seen on TV. They shouldn't be out there in matches. Yes, Shane McMahon loves doing it. And honestly, he's really good. Even at his advanced age, he takes bumps. He's willing to do anything, and you like to see that, but you don't want to see it every week. Like when he first came back after his 10 plus year absence, that was awesome. But I don't want to see him out there every night, every pay-per-view, winning matches, being called the best in the world when we all know he's not the best in the world. So I'm just happy that we're going to see a general direction on both shows that's going to be geared back towards wrestling and getting back, towards that PG-13, PG-14 type of show that us as fans would like to see.
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't want to get mixed up in the fact that I don't hate what Shane McMahon brings to the WWE with the best in the world attitude and stuff, because I think that's what gets people, that's what's going to really get Drew McIntyre over, is being a part of a guy who's being like that. So, I mean, he definitely brings a certain element to the people that he's around, and that being Drew McIntyre, who I don't think needed a whole lot of help getting over, but whatever help he needed, he definitely got from siding with Shane McMahon. But I do definitely agree with you. This new direction of Raw and SmackDown is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I saw the other day that they were talking about how Bischoff and Heyman are going to start using underutilized and wrongly used wrestlers. And it's just so much to get excited for, because there's so much talent that you see and you're like, what? Where has this person been? Where has that person been? Why haven't they been used?
We hadn't seen Shinsuke for a long time, and then he comes out and faces Finn Balor on SmackDown, beats him, and it's like, look, we know Shinsuke's talented, but they don't use him. And,
exactly.
And I read something the other day that any storyline that they were going to go forward with towards SummerSlam, that is all going to change because of the new direction. And I'm glad. Like, we won't see Shane McMahon in a SummerSlam match. At least we shouldn't see Shane McMahon in a SummerSlam match.
I hope not.
Who knows what they were going to do in terms of the WWE Championship, who was going to face Kofi. I don't know if Samoa Joe was the long term, at least going towards SummerSlam. But could it be Kevin Owens? I don't think it'll be Kevin Owens now, because you don't really want to do a face versus face. But it's just the general, as you said, the general direction of each show is going to be better, and the character development for all the superstars should be better also.
Oh yeah, you would hope that Bischoff and Heyman will take the time to get to know each person before they push them, or each person before they get them into a different character or some sort of storyline. So that's what I'm really hoping, that there's a more personal connection there with Bischoff and Heyman to their show and to their personnel, whereas Vince McMahon just sits behind a big desk and just kind of calls the shots. He sees the character for what he sees, and then he just kind of pushes them in the direction he wants to go, or put them in the storyline where he wants them, whether it makes sense or whether it doesn't make sense. So this is where hopefully Bischoff and Heyman will be able to make things make sense again in the WWE. Yep,
and it's exciting times with the different competition, and it's a good start, as I mentioned earlier, a good start for the WWE, bringing in they're not two outside voices, but they're two different voices. And it's not just going to be the Vince McMahon voice.
And they have such different views. Like, I mean, you see Bischoff when he talks, you see Heyman when he talks. You can just tell by the way they act and the way they talk that they're two completely different people who are going to bring completely different elements to their shows, which is extremely exciting. And I think that Raw and SmackDown are headed in the right direction, and they should have nothing to worry about with AEW going weekly, because like we were saying, it's so difficult once you go weekly to keep those storylines alive. And I think that's why Bischoff and Heyman have been brought in, is because Vince McMahon's been doing it so long that he's starting to reuse things. He's using the same thing over and over again, similar storylines, using the same character traits and stuff on fans, and it just isn't working anymore.
And it's going to also be interesting because now they're going the Stone Cold Steve Austin route with Kevin Owens, and obviously all the Austin and Vince McMahon angle back in the Attitude Era was awesome. How will that work with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon? Obviously, it's tough to follow the original. Usually, the original is the best. But I'm intrigued into this with the storyline that they're going to go forward with Kevin Owens as he's going to become a major, babyface and what he does week in and week out. Whether he's on dropping pipe bombs like CM Punk did the one time, or he's coming out and interfering in matches, or coming out and just wrestling. Like I'm just so intrigued with how he is going to be used going forward.
Oh, I agree. I always really liked Kevin Owens, and now it's just growing even more on me. So with that in mind, as we enter into the Bischoff and Heyman eras of Raw and SmackDown, let's enter into a little inner segment bit here that we're going to call Push, Bury, and Fire. So I want to hear a star that you want to be pushed into the world title picture, someone who you want to bury, whether it be squashing week in and week out in matches or just getting them as far away from their main event as possible, and then someone who you just want to end up seeing get fired.
All right, so we'll start with let's start with fire. We'll go from bad to better. I want to fire Baron Corbin. You know how I feel about Baron Corbin. I think he's really boring. I should have saw
this coming. I thought he'd be in the Barry side of it, but
he's really boring on the mic. I don't think he's that good of a wrestler, and like coming out he should not be anywhere near the Universal title picture mix. I'm pretty sure Heyman's going to have him far away from that. If he can see it, and if you're going to do what the fans, or if you're going to listen to the fans don't even want to see him in it. But yeah, I'm firing Baron Corbin. He does nothing for me at all. Nothing is believable that he does. I never believe that he actually has a chance to win a match, especially when he's in a title picture. But yeah, I'm getting rid of Baron Corbin, getting him far away from the WWE as possible.
Okay, makes sense. I don't think I'd fire Baron Corbin because he brings a certain type of heat because of the hatred that the fans have for him. I do not want him pushed. I don't want him in the world title picture anymore. I absolutely agree, but I think with some time he could potentially become something in the mid-card scene, but he needs some work on the mic, like you said. He needs some new character development. So we'll see if that comes in the future. For my fire is more of is someone they just brought back, and I really did not enjoy I have not really enjoyed the segments that they've done, is Mike and Maria. Personally, not a fan.
They just signed 5-year contracts. They're not going anywhere.
I know they're not going anywhere, but I just when the time came in, I know that Vince McMahon's idea is just none of you are going to AEW, so I'm just going to lock you up in these long contracts and just leave you buried somewhere on a show. I get that that's his concept and trying to keep talent, but I just don't. At the time when she goes out there, she says, I'm pregnant, and she stops the whole thing, and she's calling him her bitch and stuff. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny, but I'm like, where are you going to take these two? They're useless. Yeah. They have no place in the WWE.
They pretty much belong on 205 Live, which nobody really watches anyway. I mean, I don't watch it. I don't know if you do.
No, I absolutely don't watch it. But I heard that right before they signed the new deal, Mike was going in a certain direction there. So maybe put him back there. And if he can get some skill, build a skill set, then bring him back up. But I mean, if you're just going to be the bitch to your wife, well, I don't think there's much place for you in the WWE.
Makes sense.
Now, who would you bury?
I have two, and they're tag teams. The Revival, who I also think are really boring, and they seem to never wrestle. And the other tag team, the Iconics, who never wrestle.
Both champions.
Yeah, I like Peyton Royce. I don't like Billy Kay. I like Peyton Royce a lot, but Billy Kay does nothing for me. But them together is annoying. Like, they've been champions so long, but they've defended the titles one time, something like that. Like, it makes zero sense.
And then they go and they cut promos saying we're the defending champions, the longest reigning defending champions. I'm like, what is Vince McMahon doing with them? Why?
Yeah, They need to. I'm really mad that they took the belts off of Bailey and Sasha. Like, I think that Asuka and I can never remember her name, who she's with. But that team, like, they're gonna probably take the belts off the Iconics, the team that Paige is managing.
Yep.
Which I'm fine with. Like I said, the Iconics do nothing for me. Peyton Royce she should go to be a singles competitor because I think she actually is talented and good, but Billie Kay does nothing for me. So yeah, and the Revival, like, they also rarely ever defend the titles. The Usos should have the belts on Raw. The Usos are out there week in and week out, and the Usos are a way better tag team than they are.
The Usos are making the Revival entertaining. Because they're the ones running the promos, basically. They're so boring. Every time they've been a part of a promo by themselves or talking by themselves, it's like, oh, these guys are the worst. But then when the Usos are involved, you're like, oh, I can get behind this. But you don't want to get behind the rivalry or the storyline with the two. You just want to get behind the Usos and get the titles off of the Revival.
The Usos are so good at what they do. They're really good on the mic. They're entertaining. And they can fly all over the ring. They need to be the ones to carrying the tag team brand on Raw.
I agree. And I think that, I know that the women's revolution thing is more or less over and in the past, but this whole, you bring in a women's tag title and this is what you do with it, you're basically burying the title. And you need to change that. They need to do something. Hopefully Bischoff and Heyman do something with that. My bury is... And I'm sure that people won't enjoy this, but my bury is Kofi Kingston.
What?
I think it's time to send him back down to the mid card. I think with everything, with what's coming up on Fox for SmackDown, he doesn't excite me. He's not that great. Like, he's had some intense moments. He's cut some great promos, but he doesn't really do anything for me as a champion.
I think that's more of a storyline thing. I don't think that's him. And I think that will change with Bischoff running SmackDown.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a storyline that he's caught in right now. But as of right now, he just doesn't do anything for me as a champion. And maybe it's because he got stuck with Ziggler, who is an equally lame guy to have at the top. And then Samoa Joe, who I don't hate him being in the world title picture. I just don't really like Samoa Joe because I don't think he doesn't do much on the mic. He doesn't do much in the way of a good promo cut. Although him and Kingston had a pretty good one there 2 weeks ago when they were going back and forth and he was threatening his family and stuff. I thought that was a pretty good promo by the two of them. But mine would be Kofi Kingston, and I also had the Revival on mine because they do nothing for that tag team division. Just as SmackDown's tag team division's being revived and stuff, the Raw tag team division is just looking so desolate, bare.
Heavy Machinery is really entertaining.
Otis is hilarious. Otis, because of where I'm from, we have a rednecks around us. It makes me laugh. I think it's one of the most hilarious things. Otis, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, my head would hurt what he does. The headbang and all this stuff he does, but he's hilarious. He's great character.
One thing for sure, SmackDown is the better show. I think they do a lot better character development. They have a lot better matches, and I think that the fact that it's only 2 hours also helps because when you have that 3 hour Monday Night Raw, they like to drag things on, and then it feels every minute of 3 hours. But SmackDown went to the very last second with the Roman Reigns match, when he was that SmackDown. I think it was whatever.
Smack with Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, or that was Raw.
That was Raw, yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the nights it went down to the very last. I thought it was SmackDown, whatever it was. It went down to the very last second, and then it was match over. And then the next show came on. And I was like, wow, that just ended. I wanted a little bit more from it, but SmackDown's just for me anyway, I think is the better show right now.
I agree. It has been the better show for a while, even though when they were going through some down moments where both shows weren't very good, I could still get behind SmackDown a bit more than I could get behind Raw. Now, who are you pushing?
All right, I have two pushes. First, R-Truth. He's been great in terms of the 24/7 title. Now Drake Maverick has it, but them go chasing each other, going back and forth with it. But I would like to see him. He's been in it long enough, just like Kofi Kingston. He needs to be given a serious look at. He doesn't even have to win the world championship. Just give him the opportunity. I think he's really good on the mic. He's really charismatic, and just let him have an opportunity, and he can make gold. And my other one, now this is, I don't want him to turn heel, and I don't want the group to break up, but Big E, I think Big E can carry.
I've heard about it so much that they've been thinking about it, and I'm the more that I hear about, I can actually get behind it. I actually can.
Yeah, and I don't want the New Day to break up. I love the New Day together. They should stay together for the rest of their careers. They're just great together. But I would love, and maybe if a Samoa Joe or say Brock Lesnar, at Extreme Rules or at SummerSlam takes the title off of Kofi, let Big E be the one to get it back. Big E he's real, for a big guy, he can move. He is really good. And he doesn't get enough credit. And, obviously people don't think he takes it seriously being in the New Day, but, imagine Big E taking this 100% serious. I think it would be an outstanding, watching him go after the WWE title. And now I don't want him.
He could compete too. If say Brock Lesnar comes into the situation, it's not going to be like Kofi getting completely squashed, because there's no way you can realistically push Kofi in a match against Brock. But Big E, you can actually do that, and you can still have the charisma of the New Day behind it. And when you have the New Day in any storyline, they just make the storyline better.
Yeah, definitely. The New Day are just, they get the crowd into it. But I would love to see Big E, have a run as the champion. And again, I'm still under the belief that Lesnar's going to be the one or that Lesnar's going to take the title off of Kofi by cashing in the Money in the Bank. And then, Kofi will get his rematch, he'll lose, whatever. And then let Big E be the one. It's probably going to be Kevin Owens, but let Big E have an opportunity in there to go out and take the title off of Lesnar. I just think it would be a great story. And again, like you mentioned, there's believability that Big E can actually do it, because he is big enough to go out there and battle with Lesnar.
Absolutely. My push is, well, ironically, it's starting to happen, but it was Kevin Owens, because I think he's been underappreciated. What he's brought to SmackDown is invaluable, and a lot of people just don't realize it until he drops this pipe bomb and they're like, oh my God, Kevin Owens. I'm like, Kevin Owens has been carrying SmackDown since the whole thing with when Big E was gone and he was there stepping in his Big O. Yeah. He's been carrying, I think, SmackDown since then, and I think he was the one deserving of the push. And when I did these notes, it was I think we talked about this on Monday, and Tuesday the pipe bomb drops, and I'm like, oh well, I guess this might be a bad one to use for my push, but I couldn't change it now. But I mean, I think he's just been carrying it. I mean, his skill on the mic is insane. His in-ring skill is great. He's a whole package, and I see why they're trying to give him the Stone Cold babyface push, because he kind of fits. You can see it working.
Yeah, we know what he is as a heel. Now it's going to be interesting to see how he does as a babyface. And as I mentioned earlier in this segment, he has the charisma, he has the ability to play both roles. And we're going to see it over the next couple of months, heading into SummerSlam and heading into the first SmackDown on Fox.
Absolutely. Now, so that was a pretty good push, Barry and Fire. We might have to bring that one back.
Definitely.
Especially as the weeks roll on and we see what Bischoff and Heyman roll out. So now on to Extreme Rules.
Before we get to Extreme Rules, though, I just want to let everybody know that this segment is brought to you by our friends over at Just Food. Go visit our friend Rob, get some delicious food over there in the Buckingham area. Treat yourself, take it home. The number is 215-794-FOOD. That's 215-794-FOOD. And tell our friend Rob that the Always Next Year podcast sent you over, and get some good eatings there. And that's Just Food. Sorry to cut you off there.
All good. It sounds like some good food to have while you're watching Extreme Rules.
Oh yeah, and I took Monday off of work too, so maybe I'll go grab some stuff.
Well, now you gotta go. You're telling me you got Monday off and you're not even gonna go to Extreme Rules that is
Hey,
in your home city.
It all depends on ticket prices, man. And plus, I'm taking my younger brother with me because he likes it. So I only have so much money. I'm just saying.
It's same with all of us. Same with all of us. So Extreme Rules, as you kind of preluded to earlier, is kind of it's not a bad card. It's not actually bad considering the shortness of build-up between the Super Showdown and then these next two pay-per-views. It feels like just yesterday that the Super Showdown happened. So they've done a decent.
There's a pay-per-view every other week now. It's starting to get a little ridiculous.
Exactly my thoughts, but I feel like Extreme Rules has built up pretty good, and I feel like Stomping Grounds was a decent pay-per-view, so they've done okay coming out of. Maybe Super Showdown was just that bad, but
it was just that bad. Yeah.
So the first match, as we know, is Cruiserweight Championship. Drew Gulak defending against Tony Nese. We both don't watch 205 Live, so this is probably a throwaway prediction, but who do you got here?
I'm going to take the champ, Drew Gulak. He's from Philly, I think, right? I think he's the one that, yeah, he's from Philly.
I think so, yeah.
So he's coming back to his hometown, and he's going to want to put on a show for his home fans. So Drew Gulak's going to come away with the victory against Tony Nese.
Yeah, I just think it's too soon to take out a champ that the WWE so high on like Drew Gulak, so I'm going Drew Gulak as well. I don't watch much 205 Live, so I really don't really know much about the people except the ones who make something of themselves on Raw or SmackDown, like Cedric Alexander. But
who apparently, and not that they're going to allow Cedric Alexander to continue with this role that he did on it was Monday night when he teamed with Roman Reigns. So I'm interested in how that goes forward if they continue with that.
Absolutely. I think there was definitely a better way to go about it all. Like, I think they could have continued to keep the air of mystery by having maybe give the win to Cedric Alexander and then he gets away and no one finds out who it is or something, and carry a bit more of a interesting storyline behind it all. But tough to say now because we know who it was. Yeah. But so next is I was excited for this debut, but it's kind of been an underwhelming build to it. Aleister Black versus Cesaro.
I wanted to talk about this real quick. The WWE had a great opportunity to build this up. Don't tell us who knocked on the door. And it could have been anybody. It could have been Rusev coming back. It could have been Randy Orton coming back. It could have been Bray Wyatt coming back. It could have been anybody. But it had to be Cesaro. Now, I'm not saying Cesaro is a bad wrestler because he's not. He's talented. But I was so excited. And then when I was so disappointed when Cesaro showed his face. WWE's done such a good job of building up Ricochet. And when Ricochet and Aleister Black came up together and they tag team, like, I thought there were going to be big things for both of them. And Ricochet is taken off. And he's super talented. And he's going to continue on that high trajectory, especially since Heyman loves him.
And Aleister Black's just been sitting with a black background, cutting promos week in and week out about how people are afraid to come and see him and compete against him, and then you bring Cesaro into the picture.
I was disappointed.
I agree. I don't hate Cesaro. There is no lack of talent there. I mean, he doesn't bring anything crazy on a mic, but when you're in a ring, he can make you look good. He can sell things, and he can put on a good match with you, just like we saw him and Ricochet do 3 straight weeks on Raw. And it was not something I got bored of. Those two can put on a match.
I know. I just don't think this is a pay-per-view quality, a pay-per-view.
The build-up was just so. You got so excited with Aleister Black. Like I said, like I didn't even think about Rusev, but Rusev could have been someone. And you know that you built Aleister Black up. So obviously my prediction here is Aleister Black wins because you cannot build him up week in, week out, and have him lose to Cesaro when his old tag team Buddy beat Cesaro and got into the United States title picture and won it. So I think this one's just an obvious one in my eyes. I don't know about you, but just seems obvious.
Yeah, I'm taking Black. The only thing that could change that is if, maybe somebody returns and interferes in the match and being like, yeah, I'm the one that really knocked on the door, blah, 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 something like that. But yeah, I was disappointed. Like I mentioned, I was disappointed when Cesaro, like, there was so much intrigue going into it. I was like, oh, okay, like, even if you don't tell us Tuesday, I can't wait till Sunday. But now it's like,
they should have waited. They should have waited. But
Cesaro doesn't make me want to go to the pay-per-view.
Cesaro, even if the intrigue of the match was there, the minute Cesaro's music started on Sunday, if we didn't know it was him, I would have just been like, oh, really? Like, I just don't think I could have got behind the match ever.
Maybe that's why they told us early, because now we can get all the anger out, and then when the match happens and it's like a 4-minute squash match or something, or it's a pre-show match, and then we're just like, oh, okay, it's over.
Just get the
Alistair
disappointment
wins.
over with now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wanted it to be somebody that, like, if I heard it was a Bray Wyatt, or if I heard it was Randy or even Rusev, I would be like, all right, now I really would, like, I want to buy a ticket to this show.
I think Randy Orton could have been a really good option there, because that's someone who can really help you sell in a ring. And that's
just saying Cesaro, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to watch. I don't want to watch the match. Like, if I'm home, if I don't go and I'm home watching it, like, that's going to be my let me go get some dinner type of match.
I think it'll be a decent match because it's two athletically gifted guys, but not like from a storyline perspective. Don't drag this out, please.
Yeah,
don't drag this out, WWE. Well, our advice to Eric Bischoff for his first episode: don't drag it on, please. So next up, sticking with the SmackDown theme, we have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. The champions Bryan and Rowan defend against the New Day and Heavy Machinery.
Oh yeah, the triple threat.
Who do you got here?
It's not going to be New Day, unfortunately. I would love it to be New Day. I'm going to go with Heavy Machinery. I think it's their time. And if that were to happen, then maybe Daniel Bryan can get elevated up into the WWE title picture. Who knows? But as we mentioned earlier, Heavy Machinery is entertaining. Otis is funny. He's hilarious. The blue collar style that they go out and handle their business with. I think it's time for Heavy Machinery to get the titles. And if they don't get them, at this pay-per-view, it's very likely that they're going to get them at SummerSlam.
Agreed. I'm going Heavy Machinery here too. I wanted to go Bryan and Rowan, and I've tossed up the idea of Bryan and Rowan and Heavy Machinery. I just think that Heavy Machinery is they're getting crowds over. People love Heavy Machinery. As soon as their music hits, as soon as they cut a promo, there's cheers. The crowd's loving it. The crowd's into it. Everything about it, the caterpillar, like everything about it is just, it's what the fans want. This is one of those situations where it's what the fans want, give them what they want kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Bryan and Rowan, I think it's time for Daniel Bryan to return to the singles with Rowan just as his bodyguard again. They've had their run as the tag team championships. They brought some relevancy back to the SmackDown tag team championships. Time to move on to where he could be used better, and that's as a singles wrestler, because I just don't find Rowan brings that much as a wrestler. He brings nothing on a mic or in a promo. It's all Daniel Bryan, and Rowan's just that guy who should be there. It just in his corner, screwing people over in a match against Daniel Bryan, not in the ring as a champion. So I think Heavy Machinery, it just works. It just fits. It's something the fans want, and it's something you got to give the fans. It feels like that when Becky Lynch won at WrestleMania, when Kofi won at WrestleMania, it feels like one of those moments where you'd get a massive pop and you could really build something good to SummerSlam with Heavy Machinery and anybody, almost.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think we're just both thinking alike there when it comes to Heavy Machinery.
Now this one, I think this is an easy one for you. The Raw Tag Team Championship, the champions, the Revival, taking on the Usos. So do I even have to ask who you got here?
No, you don't. You already know my answer.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I got the Usos here. It's been a painful few weeks with the Revival as the champions. It's time to just end that. Time to move on. Time to get some new tag teams into the scene. I know that the Street Profits have been at Raw the last couple weeks.
They're like a bootleg version of Crime Time. They're funny though.
But yeah, they're funny. I like them more than Crime Time. Like that's cool. I like them, the way the promos they cut. It's just like, man, that's funny. That's good stuff. And I mean, I know they're NXT Tag Team Champions, so no chance they get into the Raw Tag Team picture too quickly. But at least get the belts off the Revival, please.
I agree. And then like when the Usos have it, the Usos are good enough that they can elevate other tag teams, whether it be the Viking Experience or Raiders or whatever the hell they're called now. The Street Profits, if like they were to get the call up. But yeah, just
I think it would. The Viking Raiders, bringing them into the picture against the Usos would be good. I think you could get some really good matches out of those two teams because they both have some stellar in-ring ability. And, well, we don't really know a whole lot about what the Viking Raiders have on a mic, but if you're working with the Usos, you're probably going to be just fine.
It'll be like the Bludgeon Brothers. They don't really need to talk on the mic. They go to the ring, handle their business, and leave.
More or less. Yeah, exactly. And the Usos, well, they don't need another team to cut promos and to stand out and help that elevate that Raw Tag Team division. They can just do it and then go out and have matches against these guys and just have some weird storyline built where they never talk and they only come out and beat the shit out of people, and the Usos do all the talking for both teams kind of thing.
Hey, it works for me.
I'm in the same boat there. So next up, a rather interesting match here that I think could have could lead to an interesting storyline in my opinion. The 2-on-1 handicap match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley defending against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. What are your thoughts here?
Well, first, interesting thing was when on SmackDown, when Nikki Cross said, "Bring a friend." First name that popped in your head, who was it?
Sasha.
Yes, sir. I was thinking Sasha Banks. I think that she's ready to come back. Now I think Bayley is going to win. I'm not 100% sure. Alexa Bliss is going to be there, but she's sick. Like, she has a sinus infection, like a really bad sinus infection. So I think that's the reason why they made it a 2-on-1 match, so that Nikki can kind of handle most of the match for that side. But Bayley, I think, is going to win, and I think Sasha's going to appear. And at the end of the match, Sasha can turn on Bayley, and we start a Sasha versus Bayley thing leading up to SummerSlam. If it's not Sasha, it's going to be Carmella, which wouldn't be as exciting. We haven't seen Sasha in so long. Since they lost the women's tag team titles, was that back at WrestleMania or whenever it was. So I'm hoping it's Sasha. I would love to see Sasha back. Sasha's really entertaining. Sasha's really good on the mic. Bayley will keep the title, and then they can start a program with Sasha versus Bayley heading up into SummerSlam.
See, now there's a lot of interesting storylines I think that can come out of this match. The idea of co-champions and having Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross co-champion as the SmackDown Women's Champion seems so intriguing to me, because you know that the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross together, you just have a feeling that it's got to end. You know someone's going to stab. Like, imagine what
Alexa
you could do.
Alexa Bliss is going to turn.
Well, of course, Bliss will be the one to turn on Cross, and what better way than to have two people with the championship as co-champions and having to try and figure that out. But and then the idea of Sasha Banks, I just am waiting for that heel turn. And what better time than you save Bayley, help her win the championship, and then you stab her in the back and lead to this huge SummerSlam match. We know Bayley and Sasha can put on a show. Mm-hmm. So it's like the idea of, would they do a heel turn, or would you do them coming back as a tag team again? Well, or the idea of Bliss and Cross as co-champions and Bliss stabbing Cross in the back, finally giving Cross a bit more of a push instead of being Bliss's bitch, for lack of a better word. Like, there's so many different things so many different directions that the WWE could go with this, I think. And I really would like to see Sasha do that heel turn. I was waiting for it when they were tag team champions, and I'm still waiting for her to come back and do it now. Yeah,
obviously Sasha took some time off because she was disappointed that they took the belts off of her and Bayley. But, that's kind of where this is heading. It would be, if she were to come back and we were to see a Bayley versus Sasha, SummerSlam program, I don't see Bayley being the one to turn heel. So it would be Sasha, and Sasha, can play that heel role to perfection. And she could play up the whole being out and not being appreciated, and Bayley not calling her, and Bayley not talking to her, and Bayley not trying to get her to come back, and this, that, and a third, and build it up, going towards SummerSlam. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think you go either way. Do you go with the Bliss and Cross storyline, or do you have the Sasha comes back, evens the odds, and then stabs Bayley in the back and leads to this epic SmackDown Women's Championship match heading into SummerSlam? It's which do you think people want more kind of thing? I think you got to go the direction of Bayley and Sasha. But there's so much you can still do with Bliss and Cross, even if they win or don't win. I think
they
there's
can go
a lot
for the
you can do.
Yeah, they can go for the women's tag team titles. I think they would be a really interesting tag team, and at least that they would be entertaining with the belts, unlike the Iconics.
And there's just that interest, that intrigue of when's Bliss going to turn.
Mm-hmm.
You just know it's going to come, and a nice Bliss versus Cross rivalry of some sort, storyline of some sort. It's been one of the more amusing storylines. So I definitely think that it's something that hopefully the WWE will continue to roll with a bit longer, because as we know, me and you wanted the Big O storyline to go on for a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
We felt they cut that too soon. So hopefully they don't cut Bliss and Cross too soon.
Yep, we'll see. Definitely see how it goes forward.
This one, I think this has been one of the most underrated mid-card storylines going, and I liked it before Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman crashed through the LED boards. I was all for this whole arm wrestling and the tug of war thing. I know people thought it was stupid. I was all for it. I thought it was pretty cool. And then you get the build up to this, a last man standing match between Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley. Who do you got?
I'm taking Strowman. They're going to finally bring back the monster among men, the unbeatable force. When you have somebody that big that can run as fast as he can, that's athletic as he is, when he does that going around the ring and shoulder blocking guys, we're going to probably see another big spot like we saw on Monday Night Raw a couple of weeks ago when he sent Lashley through the the board up at the top of the entrance ramp. We'll probably see something like that. And in order to get one of these two big fellas down, you're going to have a spot like that. And I think Braun Strowman is the one that they're going to make look, big. And, we haven't seen him since that spot on Monday Night Raw, and he's just going to come back. He's somebody that also deserves a chance at a title. So that he gets this win, and whether it be, towards the United States title, the Intercontinental title, if he goes to the Universal title, whatever it is, he needs to have a belt. And this is the start for his run to a belt leading up to SummerSlam.
I'll agree with you in the sentiments that one of these guys deserves to be put in their title picture, and I'm going Bobby Lashley. I think Bobby Lashley gets this win. He's been the underdog through it all, through this whole Strowman versus Lashley situation, and you bring Strowman in as like the beat up underdog type thing because like he hasn't been able to show up, he hasn't been able to compete. Lashley showed up and compete, showing he's a bigger man, showing he's going to be that last man standing. I just think it has all the build up to Lashley getting this win and getting pushed into a title picture. I just think the WWE is higher on Bobby Lashley right now than Strowman. Strowman's kind of been pushed to the back, and people are like, oh my God, arm wrestling, they've resorted to this. But really, it's just a build up to something bigger, I think. And I think both of them will be in title pictures eventually. I just think at this point, I think it's Bobby Lashley's time.
Yeah, I definitely disagree with you. I don't think Bobby Lashley's another one that's boring on the mic. When he had Leo Rush as his hype man, maybe he was more entertaining. But he's another one that, he's got the same. He does nothing for me. And I just think that they're gonna push Strowman. I think again Heyman, a guy that likes Strowman a lot, and since he's running Raw, he's gonna push him to the stars.
Yeah, and I mean, no matter who wins this match at the end of the day, I think this has been an underrated, like middle card thing that around the 1.5, 2 hour point, you see a little thing between Strowman and Lashley. I think it's been underrated. I've kind of been amused by it, and I've liked it. And at the end of the day, I don't mind either wrestler, and I don't mind either wrestler being pushed. I just think it'll be Lashley. But I think they've been two underrated people in kind of underwhelming Monday Night Raw scene.
Yeah, I agree.
So the next one, the United States Championship. Ricochet defends against AJ Styles, and we can assume the Club being in his corner as well. What are your thoughts on this one?
The Club will definitely interfere in the match. That's kind of a guarantee. Another in the storyline that I'm intrigued is the Club forming back together. We know that Anderson and Gallows signed a new 5-year deal with the WWE. We know that AJ Styles is under contract. I think Ricochet is going to win because I think AJ Styles is going to be pushed up towards the Universal title card mix. But I think it's going to be one heck of a match. You have two really talented guys, two guys that can fly all over the place. It's gonna come down to like the very end. Like the Club is gonna interfere. Probably they could even cost AJ the match, which AJ won't get mad at. They'll just beat Ricochet down a little bit. But I think Ricochet is going to come away with a DQ victory because of interference from the Club. But going forward, I'm interested in what they're going to do with Styles, Anderson, and Gallows. I like that stable. Now, how are they going to, how are they going to pay off the dividends of having them together?
I could definitely see them all being pushed into like a world, like AJ Styles going into the world title picture and then being pushed into the tag team title picture and becoming this stable in Monday Night Raw that kind of like runs Monday Night Raw. Because I didn't even think about it at the time, but Gallows and Anderson against the Usos instead of the Viking Raiders. What a great heel tag team to push. But I agree that I think that Ricochet will retain, whether it be by disqualification or on his own power. But it makes no sense if you're going to push AJ Styles into the world title picture to have him beat Ricochet, get the mid-card title, and then lose to Ricochet down the line again so that Ricochet gets back and then they can move Styles into the bigger picture. I think Heyman will have something in mind post his loss this Sunday night that will get AJ Styles into that Universal title picture. And I would love to see the Club get involved in that tag team title picture as well. I think they're good. They're good on the mics. They're good like the Usos and then the Club.
Yeah.
Could you imagine something there?
AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins, like that's a WrestleMania type caliber match.
And you take that to SummerSlam, that would be something. There's a lot going on that you can definitely see building up to a good SummerSlam. Like I can see a lot of these storylines turning into something big at SummerSlam. So hopefully our fingers are crossed that the WWE continues to do the right things here. Next up, the greatest in the world, Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre against Roman Reigns and The Undertaker in a no-holds-barred match. What are your thoughts here?
I'm going to take Reigns and The Undertaker. I think that this is the last time that we're going to see Shane O'Mac. Well, not the last time, but, this is going to be the starting of the fizzle-out process of Shane McMahon. And we're going to see Reigns and The Undertaker. Reigns is obviously going to take up majority of the match. Undertaker is up there in age, obviously. Can't move around as well. But then there's also talk of Undertaker versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam or even at WrestleMania, whichever one they decide to do it at. So I'm intrigued with how they do that. But obviously, the WWE's high on Drew McIntyre. Unfortunately, they're making him play second fiddle to Shane McMahon right now. But as Shane McMahon gets fizzled out, Drew McIntyre can hopefully start doing stuff on his own, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to take Reigns and The Undertaker. Reigns is obviously somebody that the WWE is high on, and he's going to he's on SmackDown. He's going to eventually get into the WWE title picture mix. It's just a matter of when versus who, and if they're going to do it for SummerSlam, if they're going to do it going towards when Fox takes over, or when SmackDown goes to Fox, or if going into the Rumble and WrestleMania next year. But Reigns isn't going to be out of that title picture very long.
No, I think you'll see him come back in when Brock comes back in, more than likely, sadly, at the same time, because they both have such boring skill sets in a ring that you just see the same 4 or 5 moves for 20 minutes. But I'm going Reigns and The Undertaker too. After that atrocity of a match at the Super Showdown, you're not bringing The Undertaker back to have him lose. The Reigns and The Undertaker are going to take this match, and I see something. I have heard the same about The Undertaker and Drew McIntyre. Something will be built up there. Probably, I'm assuming, towards SummerSlam, less WrestleMania. Because I don't know how long The Undertaker really wants to stick around on TV. I think he's just there to help the ticket sales, get people in seats. So once they get SmackDown gets on to Raw, or SmackDown gets on to Fox and stuff, maybe you see The Undertaker start to fall back again and disappear, because you would hope that move would mean that The Undertaker isn't necessarily needed to get butts in seats anymore. But yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, that this is the end of Shane McMahon taking up a lot of airtime and ruining SmackDown and Raw. And I'm surprised he hasn't gone over to NXT. Triple H is probably Triple H probably had a hand in that. Yeah. So I'm going Reigns and Undertaker, but it's not really an overly exciting match. I think it's just they wanted The Undertaker there to get some ticket sales, and that's all this match is more or less about. Was just adding The Undertaker for that ticket element.
Yeah, and when you said Undertaker, you don't know how long he wants to stay and be on TV. The thing with The Undertaker is he can just show up a week before WrestleMania and be like, I'm wrestling you, show up at WrestleMania, do his thing, and leave. Like, he doesn't really need to be on TV. So I do think that they're going to have the match, Undertaker and McIntyre, at SummerSlam. But if they don't and they want to wait till WrestleMania, it's really feasible for that to happen.
Yep, I agree. And next up, the WWE Championship, Kofi Kingston defending against Samoa Joe. What are you thinking on this one?
I'm taking Kofi Kingston. I don't think Samoa Joe's ready to have the title, but I also think, Heyman did say on Monday Night Raw that Brock was going to show up and cash in his Money in the Bank. I still think they're going to wait for that to happen, and I still think he's going after the WWE title because of the whole Fox and SmackDown thing. I know we talk about it or mention it all the time, but that's a real thing. When a network is paying $1 billion to have you, they're going to want all the big stars. And Lesnar, as much as we can't stand him when he has a title because he only shows up once every other, pay-per-view or once every other blue moon, he is a star, and he's going to have the championship on SmackDown sooner or later. But I think Kofi Kingston is going to come away with this, with the victory. He'll give the Trouble in Paradise to Samoa Joe, and then Samoa Joe will probably we'll go back to Raw, because he is a Raw superstar. So why, again, a Raw superstar is facing a SmackDown superstar for a title makes zero sense to me. But you know how it is.
Yeah, it's the WWE way right now. I'm in the same boat as far as the Samoa Joe thing. It makes no sense. I don't understand why. When it first was announced, I was like, why? He's on Raw. What does this do for SmackDown? You have enough heel stars lining up on SmackDown. Maybe they're not great heel stars, but at least they're heel stars. But, I give Kofi Kingston winning it too. I think you got to keep it on Kofi for a little bit longer. I don't think Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar is something that intrigues if come cash-in time. But the ultimate way to get Brock over heading into Fox, SmackDown on Fox, is him beating a big face like Kofi Kingston. That's how you're going to get him over. That's how, hopefully, when he wins the title, he's actually on TV more, not in a wrestling, but showing up more. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people's comments, like the WWE champion and the Universal champion should not be on Raw and SmackDown as much as they are in a wrestling way, because they're champions. Those are championships that shouldn't be all over Raw and SmackDown constantly. They should be there. You should see them. They should be visible, but not necessarily something that's constantly being on TV. because those are the big ones. You want your Shinsuke and the Intercontinental title and your Ricochet and the United States title as the forefronts of your Monday Night Raw and your Tuesday Night SmackDown, in my opinion. But you want the WWE and Universal titles there, more from a promo standpoint than a wrestling standpoint.
Yeah,
so that's
agree.
my thoughts there.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, Kofi's actually been defending that title a lot lately. So when he does give it up or loses it, he'll have a rightful, he'll have some time off rightfully because he's been a workhorse for the WWE.
Absolutely, and that's not what you want from your WWE and your Universal Champion. They shouldn't be the workhorses. Those are the people who've worked to get to where they are, and they deserve to defend only on pay-per-views and not having to wrestle every single week. That's kind of more or less what you earn as becoming that champion, the top dog that everyone's vying for. So in the final match, for what I would assume is the main event, is the so exciting winner take all. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch defending their titles against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans in an Extreme Rules match where the winner take all, if Becky Lynch is pinned, then Baron Corbin becomes the Universal Champion, vice versa. What are your thoughts?
So wait, since it's Extreme Rules, does that mean that Becky could, in theory, pin Baron Corbin? Or are we still following, intergender match rules?
I find it hard to believe the WWE will go that far too quick. I think that's too quick because I just don't see it. But I mean,
she did make Mike Kanellis tap out the other week, so they've started that process.
Yeah, it's just so hard to imagine.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm gonna take Rollins and Lynch. I don't see them losing the belts, especially to Corbin and Evans. Then I'm intrigued. What are they gonna do beyond that? Are they gonna continue with this storyline of Rollins and Lynch and their relationship, or are they gonna go their separate ways? So that's one thing that really is intriguing to me. The match is pretty much, we know who's gonna win. It's just how do they go about it. And that's pretty much the only thing that intrigues me in this match.
I agree. I mean, they're the power couple. They're the WWE's it couple, and that's how they want to continue to portray them. I think that the WWE could certainly, they've kind of teased it with their awkward relationship. I think that one or the other could cost one or the other their title at some point. I just don't think that it happens here in this match because it would cost both titles. But I mean, it feels like maybe the awkwardness isn't because the two of them are awkward. Maybe there's something being built, Maybe there's a little something that we're just not seeing that might come down the road. But I do go Rollins and Lynch here. It's not really, really exciting match. I think this whole power couple thing, just let Rollins and Lynch be the power couple. Don't have fights for the power couple. This is not, I don't think this is up for debate. But
yeah, and then what are they going to do? Rollins is going to do away with Corbin finally. I think that's where AJ Styles could come into the mix for SummerSlam. Again, having a match between Rollins and AJ Styles, that is a main event quality SummerSlam type match.
Absolutely.
Something to look forward to. So again, now that Bischoff and Heyman are taking over following Extreme Rules, it's going to be really interesting to see how Raw and SmackDown progress going towards SummerSlam.
Absolutely, I agree. And the final, hopefully, fingers crossed, Vince McMahon controlled show, Extreme Rules, is this Sunday from Philadelphia. Hopefully, you'll be there, LJ. You can take pictures, you can tweet live for us so that we can have a really nice discussion about what you saw and what you heard at Extreme Rules at the Wells Fargo Center. But for now, that is it here at the People's Take. LJ, what's your Twitter, just in case people want to give you a follow in case you actually decide to go?
Well, Well, first, our podcast Twitter's at ANY Podcast. My personal Twitter's at LJHarrell54. That's HARRELL54. Even if I don't go, I'll give whatever takes I may have for the show. But yeah, hopefully I do go, and hopefully how many times do you actually get to see The Undertaker wrestle? It's very rare nowadays. And getting him to come to Philly, and teaming with Roman Reigns for the first and probably last time ever. Can never say, first time, last time ever you can never say last time ever because they said that for Rock and Cena and they had 3 matches. So,
this could be the last one that you could see 10 more Undertaker matches. It's all about what his body's going to do and how much more his body can take.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm really excited for this pay-per-view. But you can follow me at LJHarrell54. Not only do I get some wrestling takes, talk Eagles all day, every day. Training camp starts in less than 2 weeks, just so you people know. So we will throw this in there, we will have the Kelly Green Hour returning in a couple weeks, just to let everybody know.
Just for those Philly fans who love wrestling too. There's a fair amount of them. Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be a good crowd at the Wells Fargo Center. Philly does well in filling those arenas. So and
the fans make sure that if they're not happy, the talent, the Vince McMahon, they'll hear about it.
If Baron Corbin walks out the champion, let me tell you, he may not walk out of the Wells Fargo. That is a guarantee.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on that one.
Hopefully you get to go and enjoy. Next week I'm on vacation, so we will more than likely, if there's some exciting things happen, we'll recap the week I'm back. If not, we will return the week before SummerSlam to do a rundown of Extreme Rules and to preview and predict for SummerSlam. But until then, for the people's take, I'm Connor. He's LJ. Have a good one.
Have a good one, and have fun in Europe, Connor.
Absolutely will.
Man, I used to be revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
This has been a production of the Always Next Year Podcast Network. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Please also remember to rate and review this podcast to validate our members' life choices. We appreciate it. This is AMYP, signing off.